Okay, so now let's see, let's actually get Jupyter to tell us things, or to like get output. So one of the sort of mundane things that we could do to get output is we could just write in a computation that we want Jupyter to do, run the line of code, and it's just going to tell us what that computation is. So we can just basically treat it like a calculator. So let's do 5 plus 7 times 3. Okay, it's going to follow standard order of operations. So 7 times 3 is 21. 21 plus 5 is 26. So when I run this code, it should just say output 26. Okay, and that's what we get. Okay, so this isn't bad, but it would be a little bit better if we could actually make this say 5 plus 7 is equal, or sorry, 5 plus 7 times 3 is equal to 26, instead of just having this context-free 26. So now we can do this using the print command. Okay, now the first print command I'm going to show you is the one that you have to show, I'm pretty sure it's by law, is hello world. Okay, so I'm just going to run this. The 5 plus 7 times 3 is not even going to really factor into any of this. I'm going to press run, and it's just going to spit out the words hello world. So run, we get hello world. Okay, all right, so now let's actually put this part right here. So we're just going to say 5 plus 7 times 3 is equal to, what did we decide it was? It was equal to 26. Whoops, and run it. Okay, now this is a little bit strange because we want to use the computer to do the computation for us, but we just did the computation here. Okay, so let's actually see if we can, instead of just writing out what this computation is, or like doing the computation and then writing out what it is, let's try to find a way to actually write out, like, to actually have Python do the computation and then take that number and put it in this string down here. Okay, so a string is just a sequence of characters. Okay, like 5 plus 7 times 3 equals 26. It's just a string of characters. It's the 5, then the space, then the plus, then the space, then the 7, then the space, then the asterisk, then the space, then the 3, then the space, then the equals, then the space, then the 2, then the 6, and that's it. Okay, so now I want to somehow make this sum. I want to put this sum down here, but not actually compute the sum and then literally type it in. So I'm going to say z is equal to this. Okay, z is equal to this. And now I kind of want to put z here. But if I just put z here, it's just going to print out this, but with a z there. So I'm going to run the code, and it's going to give the z. So now let's actually come down. Let's copy this code and maybe see what's going on here. So if I bring this down here and run the code, it's not going to give any output. It's just going to be this. Okay, but if I just type in z, it's going to tell me what the z variable is. So if I come down here and you just type a variable, it's going to tell you what the value of that variable is. So if I run it, it just puts out 26. Okay, but I somehow want this to be here. Okay, so what's happening is that every sort of thing in Python, every variable, which z we're calling a variable, it's holding this quantity here that could potentially change. Python knows how to take any data type and convert it to a string and then put that out when you run it. And we want to use the same thing up here. Okay, so let's actually go back an example. So print 5 plus 7 is equal to 3. Let's actually go back to hello world. So let's do print hello world. Let's run this. Whoops, see, I messed up the double string there. Okay, hello world, or the double quote there, hello world. Okay, so we're going to learn something about strings called concatenation, which means you can connect two strings together. So instead of writing this as one string, let's write hello plus and then space world. Okay, and this should be the same output because Python also knows how to add two strings together. So Python knows what to do. So up here, it knows 5 and 7 are numbers, so it knows 21 is a number and 5 is a number. So it knows how to do 5 plus 21. Down here, Python knows that hello is a string and space world exclamation mark is a string, and it knows how to add two strings together. It just concatenates them. In other words, puts them together. So I've got hello, I've got world. Hello plus world equals hello world together. And so when I run it, I'm going to get this same exact thing here. Except to show that it's going to change, I'm going to do 2 exclamation marks. And I'm going to run this code, and you're going to get hello world. Okay, so this gives us a good idea about what we should be doing here. So now I'm going to do hello world plus z. Because z is equal to 5 plus 7 times 3. Okay, now let's see what's going to happen. Let's see if this will work. I'm going to run the code. Okay, so oftentimes when there's an error, or oftentimes there is an error, and it will always tell you what the problem is. And there's a type error. It says can only concatenate string, not integer to string. Okay, so what's happening here? Hello is a string. When we did hello world, hello was a string, world, exclamation mark was a string, and Python knows how to concatenate 2 strings. But now what's going on is since we have defined z to be equal to this thing here, and this is a number, Python is interpreting this as a number. So remember, Python knows how to add a string and a string. It knows how to add a number and a number. It does not know how to add a string and a number. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to use a built-in function in Python called str. So what we're going to do is we're going to write str like this. And when we do this, Python is now going to take z, so str is for string, that's what the str here means, is going to take the, in Python's mind, z is now representing the number 26. You apply this function to an str, and it's going to spit out the stringed version of z, which is just going to be, in this case, the 2 characters 26. So now when I run it, actually, let me run it with what we want. So 5 plus 7 times 3 equals, and we're going to run this, and it's going to be, let me put a space here, we're going to run this, and it's going to be what we want it to be. So let me come up here and press run. Okay, and let me actually delete some of these lines of code. Okay, so 5 plus 7 times 3 is equal to 26. Okay, and you can play around with doing this. But let's say we come to the following problem. Let's say we don't want to just do 5 plus 7 times 3. What if we want to do 5 plus 7 times 4? Okay, so we're going to have to change the 4 here, and we're going to have to change the 4 here, and then run the code again, and we get 5 plus 7 times 4 is equal to 33. Okay, so now let's think of a better way to handle this. So let's use variables. So let's say x is equal to 5, y is equal, let's say y is equal to 4, and z is going to be x plus 7 times y. And let's say for whatever reason, whatever reason, we know this 7 is always going to be 7, and it's never going to be something else. Okay, well, we could also make 7 a variable like b, or z and call the sum or the output something different. Okay, so now we want to come down here and try to do the same thing, but I want to not have 5, I want to have x. I want to not have 4, I want to have y. Or I want it to, I want when I change x and y, I want it to change down here automatically. Okay, so here's how we can do this. Here's one way to do this. Okay, so we could say string x. Okay, so now that is this x. So let me write what we want the output to be. So what we want the output to be is to say something like this. 5 plus 7 times 4 is equal to 33, where we're allowed to change the values of the 5 and the 4 here. Okay, so the x is going to put the string version of x, which in this case is just 5. Now, it's a string, so we're going to add to it another string. We're going to concatenate. So it's going to be 5 plus, that's this plus right here, 7 times space plus y, though remember the 4 is the y value, so it's going to be string of y plus equals plus the output, z. And when I run this code, assuming I've done everything correctly, we should get basically this same thing here. But just to show that we've done something new, let's also add a period. I don't know why, but let's just do that. Okay. All right, so same exact thing. And now if I come up here and I change y to 89 and I run the code again, two things are going to happen. The y here, like this 4 is now going to say 89, and the 33 is now going to be whatever it should be. So when I run the code, this is what we get. Okay, the one last thing that I want to show in the video is this right here can get painful to write. Okay, so Python has what's called formatted strings. So here's what we're going to do. So we're going to write it in the following way. I'm going to write something down and then talk about it. It's going to be, we're going to do a curly open brace. This is going to sort of represent the x. Whoops. Hold on. Okay, so that's what we have. Sorry about that. Oh, come on. Okay, so that's going to represent the x value. So x plus, that's just this plus. This is all in a string right now. X plus 7 times, brackets again, that's going to be represented, that's going to represent the y value, 89. Again, it might be a little strange what's going on, but just work with me for a little bit, or trust me for a little bit, equals curly brackets. Okay, now I don't actually know, I think if we run this, we're probably going to get an error. Let's just run it to see what happens. Okay, no, it just puts the brackets. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we have this. This is clearly not what we want, but now what we're going to do is we're going to do dot format. And in the format, we're going to put the 3 different things that we want to go there. So the first thing is x, so we're going to do x. The next thing that goes right there is going to be y, so we're going to put y. And the next thing that goes in that bracket right there is going to be z, so we're going to put z. And then we're going to run the code, and it should be exactly what we want it to be. It should say 5 plus 7 times 89 equals z. Whatever z happens to be, I already forget. Okay, perfect. And now this is a little bit better than what we were doing before. We can just put these brackets, they're going to be whatever we want them to be. Okay, so for example, if I add w is equal to 19, I'm going to change this now to a w. I come down here, I'm going to make this. Okay, so now notice, whoops. Okay, so now I have 4 things. If I try to run this code, it's going to produce an error. Okay, there's 4 different things, but I only have 3 different arguments here, and it's going to go x, w, y, z. I need to put them in the right order over here. So x, w, y, z. If I run the code, this is what I get. Okay, if I put w back to 7 and run the code again, it's going to be what we had before, 628. Okay, so this is some very basics of getting Python to do output. We talked about variables. We have x is equal to 5, y is equal to 89, w is equal to 7, and then when we say x is equal to 5, as far as Python is concerned, x is a variable that represents this number 5. Okay, so that's it for this video. We'll look at some more of this stuff in upcoming video, or in the next video.